Hello, my name is Joseph. Welcome back to our channel. Today we're talking about immigration and some of the big mistakes that people sometimes make when they're immigrating. One of the issues is that sometimes we immigrate to some place and then we find out that there are some issues in that country where we're not able to stay there long term, and then we have to consider immigrating to another country. So we'd rather not have that happen, but it sometimes does happen to people. So we're going to talk about different things that may happen when somebody is trying to immigrate. For example, sometimes the immigration policies change in a country, and that may affect our ability to get a long-term permanent residence in that country. Also, sometimes there's personal uncertainties that cause issues in our being able to get a permanent residence. Also, our business, our job, or our studies that we're doing may be changed or need to be changed, and that also could cause a delay or rejection of our permanent residence. So these are some of the things we're going to be talking about today. One is that sometimes when we've applied for our permanent residence, the immigration department of that country says our permanent residence is going to be delayed, or they may just deny our personal. And so sometimes we don't even know what the reason is. They don't tell us a reason. It just says denied. Sometimes we can go to an attorney and they can help us to try to find out or try to see if they can repair why it was denied, but we don't always know. So that's one of the issues that can come up. So you have to be mentally prepared that it's not going to necessarily just flow easy like we would hope it would. Another thing that comes up is many times countries over a period of years, they change their immigration policy, and it may take a number of years for us to get our permanent residence or PR. And that during the time that we're trying to get it, the policy could change. And so that could change something in the way that we filed or that we are trying to get our permanent residence. So it's not always as smooth as we would like. And so we need to think about that and consider that. Also, at the top there, we're talking about we might need a higher performance. Like if we are going in as an immigrant into a country through a financial agreement that we're helping to start a business, or we're extending our business from our other country to there, and we were expected to produce a certain number of jobs or a certain level of finance. If we don't get to that level in the time allotted for us, then we might have only partial acceptance of our permanent residence, and then it might be delayed or something like that. So that's another thing that you need to be considered if you are going into immigration through a financial situation by creating jobs or by opening a business or something like that. Another one is sometimes our background check is the way they do the background check may be changed, or maybe maybe made to be more difficult to pass through different times of the years that we're trying to do the immigration. So we have to be considerate of that and be prepared to think about, we might have to give more information or answer more questions if they have questions. So there's some of the things that we have to be prepared for. Another area is personal uncertainties that may come up in our life, either before we're trying to immigrate or during time we're planning to immigrate, such as pregnancy. It could be that husband and wife are planning to go immigrate, and the wife gets pregnant, and then there's maybe a decision to stay longer in the home country to have the child before we immigrate. Or it could be the assets we have. Maybe we wanted to sell our home or our house in our country before, and then use some of those assets to help to immigrate to a new country. And maybe because of the current situation where many countries have a higher inflation rate right now, and the housing is not as selling maybe as well as it would in a more robust economy, that could also impact how the house would sell, whether it would sell at the price we wanted, and also sell in the time frame we want in order to be able to immigrate. And then another area is our health. It could be the health of the family that's planning to immigrate, or it could be the health of the parents or some of the children. It could be, different family members, someone else, a parent or somebody of one of the husband or wife is sick or isn't doing well, and they feel obligated to stay there a little longer to try to help care for them. So we have to decide, should some of us immigrate or should all of us go? And what is the timing of that? So those are some of the things we need to consider. That also, it may not be as smooth with our personal lives in just letting us to go and immigrate because of some of those factors. Also, we may be in the country where we want to immigrate, and then we find out that the job that we were planning to use to help us through that immigration process to get our permanent residence in that country, maybe there's some layoffs because of the economy is not good, and that company lays off some people, and we're one of the people who gets laid off. Then that could cause some problems with our ability to get the permanent residence. We have to look for another job and get another job that could also then help us through that process. And possibly because the economy is not so good at that time, it could be more difficult to find a job. So these are just some of the things we need to think about, that it doesn't always go as smoothly as we would like. Another thing is, if we're going on a study visa and we're planning to study in some country and then hope to go to either undergraduate or grad school, and then after that be able to stay longer term in that country. It may be that if the economy is not as good, it might be hard to find a job, or it might be more difficult to get into grad school, depending on how we do in the schooling program that we're a part of. So these are many factors that we need to think about. And so if some of these things would come up, it could be that our permanent residence is delayed, or it causes issues that we have to refile some things or ask for adjustments in the way that we are doing our immigration process. And part of our thinking as we immigrate to somewhere else is that we are leaving our comfort zone, that we are going to a new area that has a different type of situation than what we're used to. So it could be that the bills are different in that country. It could be that the utility prices are a lot higher, or that we have unexpected expenses that we weren't thinking about. We have to buy more furniture. We have to buy more things to settle in and to get our home set up the way we want it. It might be difficult to adjust to the weather. Some people are moving to some place where it's hotter. Some people are moving to some place where it's cooler, or in the wintertime, at least, it's cold. I immigrated to, or didn't really immigrate, but I lived in Africa for a number of years. And the weather was a little bit different than what I was used to because I grew up in the Midwest in the US, and we had the 4 seasons. When I lived in Africa, in West Africa for 6 years, the weather there was much more hot, more tropical, and I had to adjust to that heat and figure out things to do. Also, I had some medical issues. I got malaria when I was there and had to figure out how to adjust to the medical system there. And it was just, a little bit more difficult, but I did get over the malaria and it wasn't a big issue. It was just a short-term thing. Also, housing may be different. We maybe have to think about the combination of housing and transportation, depending on where we want to live and whether there's public transportation, trains or buses or subways that would help us be able to get to our work location. So that could be an issue as to where we want to live. So we have to think about those type of things and consider what we have to do to prepare for that. For example, if we're planning to live not in the city where there's public transportation, but maybe farther out in the suburbs or in a rural area, we would almost have to have a vehicle depending on which country. For example, in the US or Canada, you would probably need a car or an SUV or something in order to get around. And you need to know how to drive, and you need to know how to drive in different types of weather and how to navigate well. So these are some of the things we need to think about. Also, the culture is going to be different than what we're normally used to. And so the culture is something that we have to observe a lot of people. We need to look at how other people are living in this country and how we can adjust to the food, adjust to the housing, to the culture, to the things that are around us. Also, depending on where we grew up, it could be that the insects are a lot different in some places than others. For example, when I went to Africa and also I spent some time in Asia, the bugs were much bigger there in those tropical places than what I was used to growing up in the Midwest. So we need to think about how those things are going to affect us. We need to be able to leave our comfort zone and adjust to the food, adjust to the housing, the transportation, the different things that we're going to face. Another thing to think about is how are we going to have our family adjust to this new situation? And these added stresses and changes sometimes cause friction in our relationships. So we need to spend more time in preparation and talking about it as a family, talking through it as a couple, talking through it with our kids so that we can adjust. For example, there may be more housing expenses, more expenses for the schooling or for different things like that. So we need to be able to adjust to what's happening. And also it could cause, we may have to use more of our savings than we had planned, and that could cause some friction in our relationship as we discuss how we're going to use our finances and how we're going to adjust to some of the needs that our family may have as we get adjusted to a new area. And we need to spend time with our kids, helping them understand the new situation, why we decided to do this, to hopefully give them a better opportunity or a better future, and talk through those things with them, help them get to find other kids that they can get to know and have people they can enjoy spending time with at their age level, whether it's through the school or whether it's in a local club. A lot of kids like to play some kind of sports, whether it's soccer or football or basketball or other sports that they might enjoy. Volleyball, swimming. There's lots of different sports they might want to get involved in, or other kinds of clubs that they might be able to enjoy and get to know other kids through that. Also, it could be helpful to get involved in a church or something like that, where you can have people who you can get to know and be able to understand more about the culture in that country. And from those people, you might be able to get more information. So one of the 5 problems for immigration that we want to talk about, what we've been talking about throughout this time, is a lot of times people don't think about and get enough information and what we would call consultation about the location where they're going in a certain country. They may know some things generally about that country, but not specifically about the place they're going. So the more we can get to know people ahead of time and find out what kind of things that are there and what kind of things that we need to know and do to prepare, the better. So more consultation is going to be helpful to think through some of those issues and to have in mind what those type of things are. Another thing is that happens to many people as they're thinking about immigrating is they go there on a short-term trip for maybe a vacation for a week or two or a month, and they look around that country, they look around where they might live and what they might do there, and they're on vacation, so they're doing a lot of fun things and that kind of stuff. But people need to realize that having a vacation somewhere is not the same as living there long term. So we have to watch our expectations and tie them to what experience it might be to live somewhere and not to our short-term tourist trip to some country. So we need to separate that it's not going to be the same as it was when we went there on a trip to just see some sights and to learn a little bit more about the country. But going there for vacation is totally different than going there to live long term. So we need to set expectations to a proper level, not set our expectations too high that it's going to be fun like that all the time. Sure, there's going to be vacations and fun times, but also there's going to be the normal days of the week when we have to work and the kids have to go to school or have to, live in a city that's maybe not the same place we would go for vacation. So we need to have those kind of expectations lowered and not expect it to be the same. Also, the more prep or preparation we can do to prepare for wherever we're going to immigrate is going to be very helpful. So we've shared quite a few different things that we need to think about our housing, about our transportation, about our location, about schooling, about things like that we need to prepare and study and gather information about so that we'll be better prepared and have a better transition to living in that country. Also, we need to remember that our goal is to immigrate there in order to have a better life and have a better life for our children, or to have a better life for us and our kids. And so we need to consider how to best keep track of those goals, write those goals down, and then revisit them occasionally every year or every 2 years, and remember those goals and hold on to those goals, because it may be longer time to get our permanent residence, or it may be we have more struggles than we originally thought, but the goal is the same. We want to find a place where we can live and enjoy life, enjoy time with our family in the long term. So remember those goals. And also, you'll see in the right hand side there, the balancing act that this lady is doing. And a lot of times we have to think about how to have a balanced life, especially when we're going through these changes and struggles and highs and lows. We need to think about how can we have a balanced life and not worry too much about one thing, or not fret too much about certain things, but find times to do things fun together and enjoy our new location, our new life, and try to adjust to be able to have a balanced life there. Also, it's good to do some research. Here's an example of some research. We know quite a few people who've over the last some years have been immigrating to UK. And here we found some information where it says that the average salary in the US in 2021 was around $58,000, and the average salary in UK was only about $38,000 compared to dollars. So some people wouldn't have known this if they hadn't looked it up, but this is from LinkedIn. It just, does some comparisons of what an average salary would be. So it's good to do some research to whatever country you think you move to, and think about, is this going to impact you? You would probably, if you're looking for a job or taking a business there, you would probably know what to expect if you could do some research and understand more about those type of things. And each country has its own standards. It has its own governance. It has its own laws. It has its own strategy. It has its own rules. It has its own requirements. So you need to think about how you can adjust and how you can learn about some of these things, so that you'll be prepared as to what the life in those in that country is going to be like. It's good to understand what kind of government they have, what kind of rules they have, what kind of laws they have, and what things could get you in trouble, or what things are you allowed to do, and when are you allowed to do them, and if there's any special rules, regulations. And some countries like the US, it has 50 different states, and each state has its own laws, and then each city has some of its own laws. So you have to look and see and understand what some of those differences may be. But no matter what country you go to, we hope that some of the things that we have shared in this video will be helpful in you adjusting to your new culture, whether you go to the US or Canada or Europe or Asia, wherever you happen to immigrate to. We hope that some of these things that we've shared will help you in your preparation and your thinking, and whether you're already there or whether you're still planning to go somewhere. We hope that some of the things that we have shared and some of the things that you need to think about will be helpful in preparing you better for that transition and helping you have a better life in wherever you end up going. So we thank you for coming to our YouTube channel. And one of the things we want to remind you is that wherever you go, one of the most important things that we have found, and we hope you will find it also, is that your family and your friends are some of the most important things to keep on hold of those relationships and keep those relationships active, strong, and alive, even if you happen to be in a different part of the world that's part of your family. Um, Keep those relationships strong through Skype or through, different types of apps that allow you to talk um, to them and keep up with them and still show interest in them, and making time for family is and friends is very important. So we encourage you to do that no matter where you go. And we'd like you to share this if it was helpful to you, and if you know of other people who are going to be immigrating or have just recently done it, we would like you to share with them this recording so it might be helpful to them. And if you like this, click the like button. If you liked our content, please subscribe. And we would like you to share some of your experiences if you've immigrated. And if you are getting ready to immigrate, if you have more questions, please comment on those and let us know what your questions might be. So we hope you have a great opportunity and are able to adjust to a new culture and a new way of life in a new part of the world. Thank you.